Good evening, everybody. My name is Mark Cohen, and I am very proud to serve as your principal, the principal of Seneca Valley High School. We are here today to share with you some very important information about the SVHS Reopening and Recovery Plan, a path forward. I have a great team of administrators with me to conduct this presentation. I'd like to take just a moment to introduce them. First, I'd like to introduce Ms. Monique Riddick, who is our school business administrator. Monique, can you wave and say hi?
Hello, everyone.
Also have our staff development teacher and acting assistant principal, Ms. Katie Ramadi.
Hi, everyone.
Our principal intern, Mr. Scott Smith.
Good evening, everybody.
Assistant principal, Ms. Kashina Wanzer.
Hello, everyone.
And our assistant principal, Ms. LaDonna Crawford.
Hi, everyone.
Listen, so we know a lot of people have feelings one way or another about the fact that we are returning to in-person learning. But one thing is certain: we're ready. We're ready, and we're prepared to welcome our students and to welcome our staff back into our buildings. We've had a team of teachers, support professionals, and administrators working for months to make sure that we have created a safe environment for everybody to come back to work and to learn. The presentation that we're sharing with you tonight will be posted on the Seneca Valley High School website. To find it, you need only go to www.senecavalleyhighschool.com. On that page, you'll find a link to this presentation. You'll also find a link to a Google form that will allow you to ask any questions that you may be left with at the end of our time together. And finally, soon after we close this meeting, we'll upload a recording of the meeting for you to view at your discretion. To make things easier for you as you try to find information again that we've reviewed today, we've provided a table of contents. Instead of having to search through the entire presentation, you need only turn to the second page of the presentation and click on the link, the heading, that most draws your attention. And that will take you to the page that has the information that you desire. At the very end of this presentation, we'll share with you the process for either confirming or changing your choice for your child or your choice for yourself for returning to school in the coming weeks. At this time, I'd like to turn things over to Mr. Scott Smith, who's going to kick us off with information about the instructional models that our students will be following.
Great, thanks, Dr. Cohen. So good evening, everybody. Again, I'm going to go through and discuss possible instructional models, as well as a couple more slides around what you can expect once students return and the model that we'll be using. So just to kind of help you with the understanding of what specific instructional models there are, you'll hear me use these terms: simultaneous models starting there. That is basically means that the teacher is facilitating the learning of students in a classroom, engaging in a face-to-face instruction, while also having students virtual. So if your child is returning to the classroom, there will be a teacher in the room, engaging with them face-to-face, while also at their computer having students who are virtual. The simultaneous support model would be there's more than one teacher or staff member in the room, in person or virtually, where they're splitting the responsibility of facilitating the learning of the face-to-face as well as the engaging virtually. When I say in person or virtually for the staff member, it means that you may have a teacher who is in the classroom virtually, while also a teacher who's in the classroom with them, all in the same class, helping with that face-to-face and virtual. The support to virtual, and this will be something you'll hear for our students who start coming back on Monday, where there will be all the students are engaging in a virtual learning, all on their Chromebook. The staff member that's in that room with them is supporting each of them virtually. And so they're there as a content support, whether it's social studies, English, math, etc., to help with any questions that may arise for any of the students. So the specific return dates and rotations, you'll see this chart here. And I'll explain what rotations mean in a moment. But beginning next week, we'll have all of our students who have opted to return for our school and community-based program, as well as our trades programs, the automotive, construction, and carpentry. They'll come in starting Monday, and they'll come in 4 days a week for the first 2 weeks, every day except for Wednesday, which will be closed. The school will be closed for cleaning, and those students will engage virtually. Beginning March 15th, we'll add all LFI students who have opted to return, as well as all 12th grade special ed students, anyone in the METS program who has opted to return, and the CREA program, as well as any 11th and 12th grader who has opted to return in our health professions programs. Our LFI and SCB students will attend 4 days a week, every single week. And the remaining student groups will attend for 4 days a week from March 15th until April 6th. So basically, if you are a March 15 return, you'll come in 4 days a week every week until April 6th, where on April 6th, we will add the rest of our 12th grade students, no matter what program they're in, and any remaining special education students, grades 9 through 11. So all of the special ed students. Once we switch into that, starting on April 6th, you'll see our LFI and SCB programs students will continue to attend 4 days per week, every single week. And then for the remaining students, they'll actually go into what we call the green and gold rotation. That'll be basically 4 days a week on a 2-week rotation, meaning 1 week in and 1 week virtual. And each of the next phases will be green and gold rotation, where we'll actually assign each of your students to a green group or gold group, and we will notify you all which group that means at least 1 week before their return, and explain what exactly that entails, as well as the dates of their rotations as well. Beginning of April 19th and later, we'll welcome all the rest of our 9th and 11th grade students. Everyone except for LFI and SCB students will attend on that rotation schedule. Our LFI and SCB students will continue to attend every week. And then beginning April 6th, or no later than April 26th, we will welcome in our 10th grade students to that green and gold rotation as well. Like I said, anybody who's returning April 6th and beyond will be on that rotation type schedule, and you will find out exactly what that entails at least a week prior. For students starting next week, and each of them have been called individually to be notified that they are returning. This includes the students in the SCB, construction, carpentry, and auto tech programs. The type of instructional model they're receiving when they are in their CTE programs is simultaneous. They will receive a face-to-face instruction by their CTE teachers, as well as their SCB specific courses. For when they're not in those CTE courses, they will go into a specific location for each content, where they will receive a support to virtual model. So there will be a content specific teacher there to support them while they engage virtually with their English, math, social studies, etc. teachers. For students returning March 15th, we will continue with that model, where we're adding our LFI and LAD 12th grade students, as well as our 11th and 12th grade health professions, METS and CREA students who are opting to return. And for all the students who are in the CTE programs or specific programs that for their return date, they'll be in the simultaneous model. And then each of the students will go into a support to virtual model for each content that they're in: English, math, social studies, science, etc. They will report to one room for all of their electives and any other electives that are not specific to their CTE program. For the April 6th students, we're adding the rest of our 12th grade and all remaining special education students. And this is where we start that green and gold rotation for everyone but our LFI SCB students. And we will also have a simultaneous and support virtual, similar to the earlier phases. And then our LFI and SCB students will receive direct and simultaneous instruction. When anytime there's a teacher that's not available for the in-person instruction, an in-class coverage will be provided by a specific content area teacher. We want to make sure that the teacher, if for some reason a student doesn't have their exact teacher in front of them, and they're engaged in an English class or math class, etc., that there's someone else who has that content knowledge to support them. And that'll be true for the remaining phases as well. For April 19th, and we're adding our 9th and 11th grade students, in addition to our March 1, March 15, and April 6 students who've already been attending. We'll keep the models as such, where the LFI, SCB are direct and simultaneous. Everyone else will receive the simultaneous in a combination of support to virtual. They'll have that green and gold schedule. And once again, anytime that their classroom teacher is not in front of them teaching them, they'll have a content knowledge or content specific teacher to support in the need for their content knowledge. And the last phase, we're adding everyone who has already come in, and we're adding our 10th grade students and continuing with that same model from the April 19th and April 6th dates, where they'll be 4 days in or 1 week in and 1 week out. And they'll be in the simultaneous and support to virtual. Our LFI SCB students will continue to report every single week and receive that direct and simultaneous instruction.
Thanks, Scott.
No problem.
There's been a lot of conversation recently about what our schedule is going to look like. There have definitely been some adjustments that have been made specifically to the times. I want to draw your attention most directly to the start time and then the arrival times. First, I will say that many of our students who are returning to school will continue to be provided transportation as requested. For students who do need to take a bus to school, you will be picked up following a traditionally timed bus schedule. Unfortunately, in our school system, the buses are shared across levels, elementary, middle, and high. And so our buses have to run multiple runs over the course of the day, which means that even though our first period is going to, and our first and fifth period are going to continue to start at 9 a.m., it is entirely possible that our buses will drop students off at the school starting at 7:30. For students who do ride the bus and who come to school that early, they'll come in the building through the cafeteria entrance. They will sign in. We'll be signing all of our students in on a daily basis so that we can account for them, and in case we ever need that information for contact tracing. During that period of time, from 7:45 to 8:45, the students who are in the building will stay in the cafeteria. They will have an opportunity, if necessary, to interact with members of our staff if they need academic support in one area or another, or they may participate in some mindful morning activities. Again, some of that time is going to be spent simply preparing themselves for the day. For students who do not require transportation to school, buses to school, you may arrive up to 8:55. The first period starts at 9 a.m. We expect that all of our students will be in the building by between 8:45 and 8:55 so that we can clean up the cafeteria of any mess that's been made, and we can transition to first period, and that gives you a few minutes to log in as well to your first period class. Parents, if you're dropping students off, you're welcome to drop your students off before the 8:45 time, but just understand that the time they're going to spend before that first period is going to be in the cafeteria. The bell schedule we follow is going to be relatively similar to what we've been following for the better part of the school year. We are offering 15-minute transition times between periods. That's to allow us the opportunity, as the number of students who return increases, that allows us the opportunity to stagger when students transition from one period to another so that we can avoid having large crowds of students in the hallway. It also allows our students some extra time to pack up their computers, make sure everything is safe and secure, to move to their next classes in our new and very large building, and then to log in again to the new class and to a new Canvas. Lunch will be provided from 11:15 until 12:20. That is a slight change to the bell schedule that we've been following over the last several months. And the reason why we had to make an adjustment to that time is because we are dismissing students at 2:30 in the afternoon, as opposed to the later time we've been following when we've been strictly virtual. The rest of the schedule is here in front of you. I think that's pretty clean and clear to follow. In just a few minutes, one of our assistant principals will speak a little bit more in depth about the arrival process and the dismissal process. Before we get there, though, I want to draw your attention to a couple of calendar adjustments. Just want to make sure that you're aware of some changes that have been made. Now, first, for the 35 students who are returning on March 1st, you experienced over the last couple of days in this week, last week of February, a number of asynchronous days. This allowed your teachers to get their classrooms prepared, to collaborate so they could welcome you to the building on March 1st. So what I'm sharing with you does not apply to the students who are going to be beginning with us on March 1st because they've already had those days. For the rest of our student body, or for the rest of the students who are returning, rather, on March 15th and beyond, we will be having a series of adjusted schedules from March 8th to March 11th. March 8th is a no school for students day, a professional day. On March 9th, 10th, and 11th, these will be asynchronous instruction days for students who are returning to school on March 15th or later. Again, the March 1st students, you will be in school learning from your teachers, primarily your CTE or your SCB teachers. And then for our CTE students who have other classes, obviously, during the day that you take, your teachers will not be meeting you in your classrooms during that week. Instead, you'll be in the cafeteria where we will be supporting you in your asynchronous instruction. March 12th, the last day of the week, that Friday, is a B-day, half-day schedule. So I want to make sure that everybody was aware of that change to that week's schedule. Happy to report that the board has approved spring break will continue March 29th to April 5th. The last day for seniors remains May 28th. Graduation day remains at this point June 14th at 2:30. We're still working on the details about where graduation will be. We're still hopeful for a DAR Constitution Hall graduation, but we're in the process of making plans for other possibilities if necessary. And the last day for school remains June 16th.
Thank you, Dr. Cohen. No one can expect school to look like it did on March 13th, 2020. Movement and in-person engagement will be restricted due to CDC guidelines. We will be asking staff and students to remain masked and physically distanced. Students will attend music, PE, and chorus classes in a face-to-face setting with some modifications. They will have to follow specific safety instructions for singing or playing an instrument, and no physical activity that involves shared equipment or student-to-student physical action will be allowed. Students are required to either bring their own device or their MCPS Chromebook to school. They should make sure that all of their devices are charged overnight and ready for use each morning. All students, both virtually and in person, will have access to clubs, extracurriculars, and athletics. Clubs and extracurriculars will be meeting virtually until further notice. Athletics may have some in-person times, but that information will be communicated by the athletic staff. We will maintain the same A-B day schedules that students have become accustomed to, but in a couple of weeks, we will transition to green and gold group rotations with students returning to in-person instruction, coming to the building on alternating weeks. These groups were selected to ensure that we are meeting social distance requirements, and therefore we will not be able to honor requests for changes. All students will follow their schedule both virtually and/or in person with their teacher of record. For arrival, as Dr. Cohen mentioned, if students arrive before 8:45, those students will report to the cafeteria or gym to sign in. In a moment, you will see a picture of our facility to know where students will enter. Once they enter at the cafeteria entrance, they will be directed to go to either the cafeteria or the gym. For students arriving after 8:45, they will report to their first period or their fifth period to sign in. We will be providing breakfast to all interested students at no additional cost. So in the morning, buses will drop off students at the Wisteria Drive entrance up until 7:45. After 7:45, parents will then be able to enter the Wisteria Drive parking lot to drop off their students. We do have a limited number of parking spaces available to student drivers. A separate communication will be sent to seniors detailing the process for requesting special permission to park on campus. Those parking passes will be given based on specific needs, and student drivers and walkers will need to enter through the cafeteria doors. Juniors will not be permitted to park on campus or on the street. So here's the graphic. If you notice towards the bottom of your screen where it says student and bus drop off / pickup, that is where buses will enter until 7:45 a.m. And then at that point, students who are being dropped off will be allowed to enter the parking lot to drop off students to enter through the cafeteria. For dismissal, we will be staggering the dismissal of students to ensure that the number of students in the hallways meet the guidelines that we've established. So between that 10 and 15 minutes is when students will be released. The buses will be picking up students in the same parking lot on the Wisteria Drive side. After buses leave, parents will then be permitted to enter the Wisteria Drive parking lot to pick up their students. All students will be exiting the cafeteria entrance, whether they are walkers, riders, or bus riders. Again, looking back at this graphic, the same entrance where students enter, either bus, walking, or being picked up, will be the same for departure.
Thank you, Ms. Crawford. Lunch. All students will eat lunch in the cafeteria from March 1st through April the 6th. Students returning April 6th through April 19th will be assigned to eat lunch either in the cafeteria or the auxiliary gym. Beyond April 19th, all students will be assigned to eat lunch in the cafeteria, auxiliary gym, or additional spaces such as classrooms and outdoor courtyards. There will be lunch provided for every student. It will be a grab and go lunch. There will be no need for PIN numbers or ID. Meals are free for all students. There will be no a la carte snack sales, no extra drinks, ice cream, cookies, or etc. There will be no cash or checks handled by the cashiers. There will be no access to vending machines. Students may bring their own lunches from home. However, we will not have access to microwaves or refrigerators. There will be no food delivery at Seneca Valley High School, and clubs may meet virtually during lunchtime. Movement in the hallways. As students and staff move throughout hallways, there are visual markers and signs to help them maintain a 6 feet social distance. Some hallways or stairwells may only allow one way and will have an arrow to show which way is permitted. Masks are expected to be worn when traveling through the hallways. If you see a hand sanitizing station, go ahead and help yourself. Students will not be permitted to congregate in the hallways. There will be limited bathrooms available throughout the building. The cafeteria restrooms will all be available, and there'll be 2 restrooms available on each floor of the upper floors in the building. Occupancy is limited to 2 students at a time for typical school restrooms. Water fountains will not be available. Students may bring their own water, or a limited number of water bottles may be available. Classrooms. The classrooms are configured to include no more than 15 bodies. Classroom seating will be located at least 6 feet apart in all directions. Seats all face the same direction, and teacher locations when seated or standing should be at least 6 feet from student seats. Assigned seating will be used to assist with contact tracing if a positive case is found.
Technology. Students are expected to bring their Chromebooks to school daily, fully charged. If possible, they are encouraged to also bring in their chargers. Extra chargers are available in the building if needed. There will be a limited supply of extra Chromebooks in the building if a problem occurs with the student's assigned one. However, the expectation is that all students bring their Chromebooks to school daily, fully charged. Students are encouraged to bring in their personal headphones every day. Headphones may be provided to students if needed. A Chromebook case will be provided to all students to protect it. Students will keep their device with them all day, as locker use will not be permitted. Masks and mask wearing. Cloth masks, face coverings will be required for all students while in MCPS facilities and on the MCPS bus. Masks will be provided to students if they need one. All cloth face coverings must fit the face tightly and securely and permit easy breathing. Securely cover the nose and mouth from bridge of the nose to under the chin. Be free of dangling ties, straps, or material that can snag or catch on playground equipment, fences, doors, etc. Be kept clean and free of damage such as holes or tears. Clear masks, which is a mask with a clear panel for visible mouth, are being acquired for students who need them for communication. Students may bring their own cloth face coverings if they meet MCPS standards. Face coverings are required at all times except when actively eating or drinking, unable to wear a face covering due to a medical condition or disability, or is physically unable to remove a mask, unable to wear a face covering because it impedes communication by or with persons who have a hearing impairment or other disability where the ability to see the mouth is essential for communication. Please contact the principal if you believe your child meets the criteria required for an alternative to mask wearing. What will be done for students physically unable to wear a mask? A hierarchy of PPE for staff who will not be able to maintain social distancing from the student will be provided with the type and level of PPE to be consistent with the activity occurring. Students who cannot wear a mask will be kept socially distant from other students and, if possible, will be required to wear a face shield. What will be done for students who forget their mask or whose mask becomes soiled or damaged during the day? Well, a replacement face covering will be provided. All schools and facilities and buses will stock disposable surgical style masks and/or replacement cloth face coverings. Repeated failure to bring a face covering will be addressed by school administration as needed. Routine cleaning. It is expected that there will continue to be routine building cleaning and disinfection, including frequent cleaning of all MCPS schools, facilities, and buses. This is a normal daily activity, but there will be increased frequency of touch point cleaning, disinfection, handrails, door handles, sinks, toilets, urinals, drinking fountains, etc., and dispenser checks, refills, paper towel, soap, hand sanitizer. Teachers and students will also need to contribute to caring for their areas and cleaning of their supplies and spaces throughout the day.
Thank you, Ms. Wanzer. MCPS will send weekly emails asking students and staff to answer 3 questions. 1, do they have symptoms of COVID-19? 2, have they been diagnosed with the virus? And 3, have they been in close contact with anyone who has or is believed to have COVID-19? If the answer to any of these 3 questions is yes, they will not be allowed to come to school or work. This process will be collected centrally, and an automatic notification will be sent to school teams when someone answers the question affirmatively. Students and staff should take their temperature daily and alert the school immediately if their health situation changes between weekly attestations. MCPS has purchased digital thermometers for all families to ensure this is not a barrier to providing a response. School health staff will also have the resources to support any student who is showing symptoms. During the February 23rd Board of Education meeting, MCPS received contract approval to purchase a COVID-19 testing system for schools. The addition of surveillance testing is aligned with CDC best practices. The system will allow for weekly testing of students and staff beginning the week of March 15th. The testing is voluntary and is self-administered through a nasal swab. And feel free to return to this presentation to review the linked resources that are provided here. Parents and staff will have the option to opt out, though we will strongly encourage all to participate. The testing protocol will be to have students self-administer in their classrooms weekly. If a student is suspected of developing or having COVID-like symptoms, the following will occur. We will separate any student who exhibits symptoms at school and notify the parent or guardian. The student will be sent home. The parent or guardian will be encouraged to have the student evaluated by a healthcare provider and reminded of requirements for returning to school. If a student has positive COVID test result, the school will identify close contacts. According to MSDE, close contacts of students with a positive diagnosis or who do not receive a laboratory test or alternative diagnosis for symptoms must be excluded for 14 days from last exposure, regardless of symptoms or test results. Close contacts of a student with negative COVID-19 test results or with documentation of an alternative diagnosis do not need to be excluded if they do not have symptoms. If the school nurse or health tech determines a student is showing possible symptoms of COVID-19, the student will be quarantined in a triage room adjacent to the health room. The student will be supervised by a member of the school health team until a parent or guardian picks the student up. The school health team will provide instructions on next steps that must be followed before the student may return to school. Dr. Cohen?
Thanks, Katie. So individual student changes in choice of instructional models will impact the number of students in classrooms, staffing requirements, access to and availability of services that include instructional materials, transportation, and food service planning. Decisions regarding changing from virtual to in-person will be reviewed and considered, but may not always be able to be accommodated. Schools have developed plans based on initial family preference selection. Prior to the blackout period, families may contact their schools to discuss their selection or request changes. Outreach efforts to families who did not respond are still in process. Once we reach the blackout period and following the return to in-person, a change in model selection requires a formal request and review. So to be clear, each family in our community should have received a communication today, February 24th, by email. In that communication, we've verified whether your student or whether you are intending to return to school in person or to remain virtual. We've also included that letter if you're returning to in-person instruction, what day you're most likely to be returning. If you want to make a change to that designation, now is the time to do it. Between now and Friday, and we understand that's a very tight turnaround time, but between now and Friday, February 26th, we ask that each of you think very hard about whether in-person is right for you or if you plan to stay virtual. And if you want to make a change, we ask you to reach out directly to your school counselor or to your assistant principal, and we'd be happy to make that change for you. Once we get to Friday, it's going to be very difficult for us to make a change because we need to make sure that our plans for students and staff returning are data-driven and are responsive to the needs of the number of people we have coming back into the building. So because of that, we will be entering a blackout period. During the blackout period, which will likely be several weeks, we will not be able to entertain any requests for changes. We'll note them and we'll make a point of coming back to them once the blackout period has come to an end, but we can make no assurances that we'll be able to make the changes that are requested beyond this week. It's going to be much easier for families once we return to school to have their students return to virtual instruction than it will be for them to return to in-person or to move from virtual to in-person. For a student to move from in-person to virtual, the family must submit the request to the school principal or your assistant principal. I will have somebody notify you of any changes to specific classes, teachers, and schedules that may result from changes in the instructional model. We'll then make changes to the class lists and inform families what your start date will be. For virtual to in-person, you submit the request. The request will be reviewed and considered based on safety guidelines and space availability. If there's no space, then we'll begin a wait list for open spots. And finally, we'll work on a case-by-case basis regarding alternate options if urgent circumstances exist. In the presentation that we provided you, and again, you can find that at www.senecavalleyhighschool.com, you'll find a link to frequently asked questions that many parents in our broader community have asked to MCPS. We encourage each of you to visit the site and to read those questions and answers thoroughly. We've also provided on our website an opportunity for you to ask questions of your own. We ask that you please contribute to our frequently asked questions page by visiting our website and clicking on "Click here to ask a question," which is located right under this presentation. Answers to your questions will be updated on our school website regularly. Again, we are so incredibly grateful to the team of professionals that have worked tirelessly to create a safe environment for our staff and for our students to return. And we're also grateful to our students and families for your patience and for the grace that you've shown over the last 12 months as we've tried to stand up an educational program that is different in virtually every way from what any of us has experienced before. We can't wait to have you come back, and we can't wait to show our newest Screaming Eagles what it means to be part of the Screaming Eagle family. We're proud of all of you, and we're proud of our staff for having done a remarkable job these last 12 months. We wish you all nothing but the best as you make the decision that's right for your student. Thank you all, and good night.